Here it goes. Yeah. Let him hear you, folks. Let him hear you. Come join us as we take you on a trip from the practice pen to the show arena and let you listen in as top trainers prepare their students to compete in the Western industry's most exciting equine sport. And you'll learn what it takes to become a top weekend cutter.
Just relax, Robert.
Very good, Chase. Keep pushing on that horn, bud.
Outside leg just a little. There you go. Stay up. Back up. Stay up. There you go. Good. Don't lean. There you go.
People from all walks of life can find a place in our sport.
But Symbiont helps us reduce, if not eliminate, our worries on EHV1, E. coli, Salmonella, Staph, Listeria, and H1N1. You can't ask for much more than that.
Hi, I am Kathy Reiserfoot. My husband Jonathan and I have insured with Roger Peters Livestock for over 30 years. Our most recent issue was I was showing our mare. We were sitting fourth in the world and she tore a suspensory. Our insurance coverage is the reason we were able to continue on with Lola. And I so appreciate Roger Peters Livestock Insurance.
Hey folks, welcome to the show this week. Let's start off with our trainer over in Louisiana. He's going to have one of his clients there at the Ike Hamilton in West Monroe. Mason Griffin is going to be helping one of his youth kids. This whole episode is brought to you by Symbiont Ag Wash. Remember to spray before you stay. Go to symbiontagwash.com to find out where there's a dealer closest to you. Now let's head to the Ike Hamilton and catch up with Mason Griffin.
Hey everybody, this is Mason Griffin. We're here in West Monroe, Louisiana at the Ike Hamilton Expo Center at a River City Cuttin Horse Association show today. Here with my good friend and client Chase Burgess. Chase is going to show his horse in 2000 Limited Rider later. Chase, give us a little rundown about yourself and your horse.
Well, I'm a 19-year-old high school graduate. I'm riding a 12-year-old son of Bodie Boonsmall. He has won a little over 70,000 NCHA lifetime earnings.
All right, Chase, we're going to go out here today and work in this practice pen here and just going to kind of work on making your horse stay flat and work on you a little bit too. When you get into work there, you want to get a little bit happy with your hand. Just stay real slow, don't get to sword fighting, and go up in there and get your cows cut clean, and we're going to work on your horse a little bit.
All right.
All right, step on in and start driving these cattle up. See, slow that hand down a little bit right there. You're getting a little bit happy with it. Now come up, come on up. Let's get some separation. All right, let's let our horse work a little. All right, flatten out there, flatten out. Good. Gonna go slow through this turn and then accelerate. Good. All right, herd leg a little bit there. All right, let's find a spot and quit this cow. Right there. No sword fighting. Easy, easy with your feet. Okay, now drop. Good, good. Stay sitting down. All right, easy that way. There you go. Herd leg coming out this way. Herd leg, herd leg. There you go. Right there, quit. Good job, buddy. All right, Chase. You know Ghost had you a good workout there. What do you feel like you got done?
Feel like we got him stopping a little harder and staying a little flatter.
You feel a little bit more comfortable keeping your hands slow there instead of trying to fight with him through your cuts?
Yeah, it feels a lot better.
All right, well, good deal. We're gonna go out here and try to get Sean, see what we can get done. It's 2000 limited rider.
All right.
All right, Chase, don't overdo it. This guy's throwing some pretty strong head fakes here. Just let your horse read the cow. Don't get too far outside of it. Be real smooth in your cuts. Everything's pretty good. Just go out there and cut what wants to stay. All right, let's get a push now. Be sure you get set up good. Easy, easy with your hand. Easy. Easy, don't overdo it. Find your spot. Find your spot. Hey, hey. Hey, 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 hey. There. Hey, Chase, a little bit smoother with your hand there, okay? Go on up and cut. Easy, easy. Outside cow. Whatever's gonna stay up there. Check up there, check up, check up, check up. There. Sit down. Good. Stay sitting back. You got 28 seconds. Make a decision here. Find you a spot. Got 20. All right, stay here now. Stay here. Stay alive with your feet. Alive with your feet. Good job, bud.
Well, that's it for Mason Griffin. Congratulations, Chase Burgess. Now let's do something a little different. We just came from a weekend cutting. Let's go all the way to Las Vegas. I caught up with one of my heroes, a great ambassador to our sport and horsemanship in general, Mr. Al Dunning. He has been great to this show. We've done lots of things together. But I got to sit down with him and ask him some questions that I like to ask some of the heroes in our sport, and I consider Al Dunning as one of those guys. He's been around, been in the business over 50 years, and has been everywhere a number of times. So I asked Al these two questions, starting off with, how'd you get your start? And who were your mentors in the industry? This is what he had to say.
Well, you know, when I always wanted to cut once I saw it, I lived right around the corner from Shorty Freeman in Scottsdale there, and Don Dodge was over there at Shorty's, and I'd heard about Doc Alina and what a cool horse he was, and so I went over to Shorty's one day, and I got to see that horse right after he won the Futurity, and I was kind of enamored by him. He was just a little horse. You know, I expected to see this big old, you know, spectacular looking horse, but he was such a great athlete, you know, but he didn't have that presence that I thought he'd have after hearing about his reputation. But I sat on the fence. I'd watch Shorty work, and I'd watch Don work, and Shorty hardly talk to you, but Don, he'd talk to you. And so Don and I became friends, and Don moved next door to my place out on 108th Street and Shea Boulevard, and when at Dr. Hancock's place next door. So I used to go over there and ride with Don. And the first day I went there to ride with Don, Don said, Al, he said, I'd like to help you a little bit, but I'll tell you, he said, you can steal my horse, you can steal my bridles, but if you touch my girlfriend, I'll kill you. I always got a kick out of that. You know, he was one of the major characters of all time in my career, and it was a great influence on me. The first time I went to the cutting fraternity, he set me up down there, and Don didn't have a horse that day, that year, so he set me up down there to go to Matlock's place. And I'd heard about Matlock, and I was so intimidated by him, and I went there and worked my horses with Matlock, and Sonny Rice was there, and oh gosh, there were some great guys there. Dale Wilkinson was there. Anyway, it was just a fabulous group of guys and icons, you know. So I was thrilled to get to work there at Matlock's, and I had a really cool little mare that I showed named Oaklyn, and Matlock ended up buying her. You know, she was such a good horse, and I knew what I was doing. I trained a pretty good horse, but anyway, those guys really made me up my level and want to cut even more. And that in those days, I was training reiners and cow horses, and I trained, you know, I've trained about everything, Western pleasure horses and halter horses, and you name it, I've done, jumping horses. But I got around Don and Shorty and Matlock and Mr. Pat and got to meet Buster, and, you know, guys that were icons, guys that are legends. And I thought, you know, I'd won a lot in that other stuff, and I want to finish my career being a cutter. So in the early 80s, I started cutting, and you know, I'd been hurt pretty bad by then. I had a horse fall on me and have a double laminectomy, had a couple discs removed from my back, and had a hard time loping the reiners and stuff. But I've rehabbed now, so I'm able to do it, that kind of stuff. But now I'm a full-time cutter. You know, I still train a couple of reiners, a couple of cow horses and stuff for fun, but, you know, cutting's the bag. And I think I do it because it's the most difficult sport to get right. And you know, you're hardly ever, like I won, I don't know, I showed Expensive Hobby 110 times and 120 times and won 110 first. And you can never do that in the cutting. I mean, you can't do that here. I mean, you're lucky if you get, you know, out of 10 times shown, you get 8 checks or something. That'd be a big deal. No less win, you know, 50 in a row or something like that. It just doesn't happen because of all the variables in cutting. You know, I think that's what I love most about cutting is that, first of all, I get to go to guys' places and work. You know, like I get to go to Texas and get to ride with a guy like Matlock Rose. Are you kidding me? You know, I mean, be around somebody like him and be around Don and Shorty and get to know Buster and people like that. And today, you know, I get to go down there and be with my friends like Winston Hansma and people like that, and Matt Sargood, and, you know, just some wonderful people that I just love to pieces, you know. And you know, when I go to the AQHA World Show, I've always stayed with Frank Merrill at his place, and, you know, that just becomes a huge family deal that is something special. You know, I feel like I'm welcome. I feel like it's not just me alone in my barn. You know, it's me and my friends, and you got to have a team around you. One of the interesting things about cutting is that you have to have a lot of friends around you, and they got to be good friends because they got to be okay with you beating them every now and then. That's a big deal. You know, I think that you know, when you go down there to the herd and you've got, like Mike Wood worked for him for 9.5 years, and when I go down there, Mike's there, and Drew Dunham has been there for me, and Tim Smith and I are good friends, and Gavin Jordan, and you know, I hate to even mention them all because they're such a great group of guys that I've had help me over the years too, that I feel like they really, you know, it's okay if I beat them, and they know if I help them, it's okay that they beat me. I mean, we don't have to love it. We want to win first. But, you know, sometimes you're going to cut better cows. Sometimes you're going to be riding a little better horse. Sometimes you're going to cut your cows better. Sometimes your judge is going to favor you. You know, it's all kinds of stuff like that. But that's what I love about cutting the most, I guess.
The next question I asked Al Dunning were, tell me about some of the interesting people you've met on this ride in the horse industry. Some of your clients were from all walks of life. This is what he had to say.
You know, over the years, I've got to know a lot of neat people that have been customers of mine even that, you know, I've had baseball stars and football stars and basketball stars and doctors, famous doctors and lawyers and you know, and just some really cool people. I'll tell you the amazing thing is this sport of cutting, if you're going to have a great horse and you're going to show a lot, it costs you. I mean, it's a little expensive. But some of my coolest people I know work their tails off to pay their bills on their cutting horse so they can show and train and do the things that say like the wealthy people can. And I think I've enjoyed those people just as much as the people that can really afford it, because I know how hard they've worked to be able to enjoy this sport. So I have that appreciation. You know, I've had every kind of customer you can have. The good ones have a feel for the horse. It's not like they just rented a motorcycle and they're going to get on and just go fast. But they really like their horse. They don't really want to sell their horse. They want to stick with that horse. They want to treat the horse right. They want to, you know, learn, and that's what's great about your show too, is they really want to learn. They want to learn how to cut right, how to ride their horse right, how to take care of their horse right, you know, how to, you know, get the maximum out of every moment. Because this is a sport where you have to focus. If your mind is like, I don't think you have to be brilliant to do this. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because if you think too much and you don't focus on the cow, you got to focus on the cow and you got to ride the horse. So you got to feel the horse and watch the cow, I say. And that's a tough for someone to do, because they worry about how they're sitting and how they look and how they, you know, but you've got to almost dumb it down to the point where you're really just feeling the flow. You're riding that horse across that pen and reading that cow and getting to that spot where you can stop that cow and allow that horse to hit that stop and come through that turn correctly. And you got to be able to use your legs at the right time, and you got to release at the right time, and you got to use this leg at the right time and that leg at the right time, and all that while focusing on that cow and knowing where you're at in the arena. So there's a lot going on, you know, when you're doing that. So I think some people make too big a deal out of it. You know, first of all, it's got to be fun. That's number one. Because this isn't about winning. I know lots of people have won a lot and they're miserable, you know. And I know some people that haven't won much and they're having the greatest time in their whole life. And vice versa. I know some people that have won that are having a good time too. I mean, obviously, for me, I'm a competitive coach and I'm a competitive rider, and I always have been. This is my 51st year of showing horses, okay? So in 51 years of showing horses, I've learned one thing. I don't like to lose. But I got to figure out how to be a good loser. And I got to figure out how to have a good time every day. Every day I better have a good time riding my horse and being with my friends and being at the cutting and just enjoying my life. Because this ends up being, for guys that get immersed in it like I am, this is a lifestyle. It's not just put on your hat and daggum boots and your chaps and go out there and do your thing and then you're done. We had to talk about it the other night at dinner, about how important it is that my customers, when they come to the ranch, You know, they have to have boots. They can't ride in anything but boots. I like to have them have a hat on. I like to wear chaps when they work their horses. I like to have them have a long sleeve shirt. And Don Dodge taught me this, and he called it a uniform. And the uniform of being a cowboy, a uniform of being a cutter. And I think that's an important part of being immersed in this sport and immersed in real, true horsemanship.
Hi, this is Jody Gray from Cool, California, and Cuttin' Up will be right back after these messages.
I'm Dr. Glenn Blodgett from the 4 Sixes Ranch here in Guthrie, Texas, and I highly recommend Alfalfa Cubes from Manzanola, Colorado. The thing I can tell you about this Top of the Rockies cube is it's the most consistent form of alfalfa I've ever been able to purchase. We feed this in the pasture on the ground some, we feed it in the lots. It really does meet all the nutritional needs. I couldn't recommend any hay source any higher than I can this Top of the Rockies cube.
The rural American lifestyle. It's how we work, and it's how we play. It's how we learn and how we enjoy the finer things in life. How we take care of our animals and tend to the land. It's a way of life. Has been for hundreds of years. Now there's a whole new way for rural America to watch TV.
This is Don Noble with Noble Panels and Gates. Welcome back to Cuttin' Up.
Hello, my name is Tracy Barton. I'm from Northridge Ranch in Pierce, South Dakota, and today I'm talking to you about bits. One of my favorite bits is what I call a correction bit. It's called a TTB correction. It's made by Ray Mayhew out of Paterson, New York. Ray has been a customer of mine as well as a sponsor of mine for the past 20-25 years, has supplied me with all my bits. And this is a special bit. It's not a real thin bit, it's a 5/8 bit. And the reason why I like this bit so much, if you get a bit or a correction bit with a real small diameter mouthpiece in it, a lot of times it's going to cut into that horse, or that it's going to make that horse root on that bridle a little bit or scare them. If you have a bit with a bigger diameter, a lot of times a horse will lunge into that bit and you lose that bite and you have to do a lot more tugging. So this is kind of the middle of the road bit, and it has a lot of feel to it. The reason why I say a lot of feel, you can take a correction on a really small diameter and you'll pull and pull and nothing will happen, and all of a sudden you have a tremendous amount of bite. In this particular bit, with the Mayhew bit, the way we've got the shank swept back a little bit, you can pull it a little bit, you get a little bite. You pull a little more, you have a little more bite, or you can really pull a lot and then you can get your stop. This bit, it takes a lot to scare a horse in this type of bit, with this diameter bit, with this shank. I've had some corrections that I've used in the past before I met Ray Mayhew, where the diameter was really small and I would scare the horse, or a diameter was really big and I was tugging all the time and I lost a lot of feel in my horse. This particular bit accomplishes all that. You have a lot of feel on your horse, you don't scare your horse, and yet if you really need to stop a horse or it gets out of control, you're able to do that without scaring the horse at all. We have put inlay, if you can see the back of this, we have inlaid copper into the shank to help the horse salivate throughout the working process so that the horse's mouth doesn't become dry. I really like that concept. It really keeps the horse's mouth. We have a lot more feel in that horse's mouth by doing that. And the longevity of this bit, using it on a horse, far increases that of a bit that you can use for 1 or 2 days and then you've got to swap off. This particular bit I've been using probably for 25 years. I probably won over $2 million using this particular bit, and I'm very comfortable with this. It's a good transition bit from, let's say, a snaffle and a C bit, and you want to go to maybe a stiff bit or a clapper bit sometimes. This correction bit is a good intermediate bit in between there. We also have a bit that's built just like this, but it does have a square port that we use on the babies or the 3-year-olds when we transition from a snaffle to a C bit. Before we come to this bit, if we want to use this bit, we use that square port. So there's a lot of different applications with this particular concept of a correction bit. I also like the reins to be 5/8 reins. I don't like a real thick rein because it seems to me it's real heavy in my hand, and I have to work harder to pull. My hands are kind of big, and a 1/2 inch rein is tougher for me because I feel like I'm having to grab trying to find the rein. So the 5/8 rein for me works really well. I like a chin strap, you know, a metal or leather. It really doesn't matter on this particular bit because once you get it properly adjusted where you can put 2 fingers between the chin and the chin strap, you're going to have enough bite with this particular bit. The shanks, if you've noticed the shanks, they're not super long and they're not super short. They're just mid-range. Everything's mid-range on this bridle, and I like that because it's going to fit a higher percentage of horses versus a particular bit that's going to fit 1 or 2 type horses. And in my business where we're riding 20 or 30 horses a day, I want to have a bit that's going to fit the majority of horses. Other than that, it's just a really good bit. And the thing I like about Ray Mayhew's bits is that if you do tear one up, and unfortunately trainers at times do tear up bits, he fixes them exactly the same way as if they were brand new. So the bit you're getting back is the same bit as when you purchased it. That's Talking a Bit. My name's Tracy Barton from Northridge Ranch in Pierce, South Dakota. Thanks for watching Cuttin' Up.
The Talking a Bit segment is designed to let you know what trainers consider to be their favorite bit and what their uses are. Be sure and talk with your trainer to see what bit works best for you and your horse. Well, that's our show for this week, folks. I hope you enjoyed Mason Griffin working with his client down in Louisiana. And I want to say a big thank you to Al Dunning. He's a dear friend, been an awesome individual for over 51 years in this sport. You know, a champion at all different levels of horsemanship in so many different disciplines. Just an all-around great human being, and we were so honored to get to sit down with Al Dunning, and I hope to do it a dozen more times over the years. So thanks again to Symbiont Ag Wash. Remember, go to symbiontagwash.com and spray before you stay. I'm Kenny Imai. That's our show. Join us next week. We'll be right here, Cutting Up.
This is not the same. If you can't cut it, then get out the ring. Stay behind the gate if you can't stand the flame. Let someone in there who knows the game. If you can't cut it, move out the way. Let me in there, get out my way.
Be sure and go to Cuttin Up TV's Facebook page and like us.